Okay, then. Should we start? How do you think?
Okay. Can I start?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
If it's okay for you. Okay,
Okay.
then I will
Good
start
af
too.
um, good afternoon and warm greetings to everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guests, Professor Carmen Hartmann-Menzel from Hochschule für Gestaltung Schwäbisch Human, Germany, fellow lecturers, students, and professionals. It is a great honor for me, Naila Maharani, from Creative Faculty, to serve as the moderator for today's international guest lecture titled UX for Empowering People with Disabilities. This topic is not only highly relevant, but also deeply meaningful as it highlights the importance of inclusivity in user experience design, especially in empowering people with disabilities within today's complex social, technological, and design context. This guest lecture is a part of an international initiative aimed at enriching the academic community perspective on inclusive and empathy-driven design practices. We are proud to welcome Professor Carmen as esteemed scholar and practitioner in UX inclusive design with significant contribution across Germany and Europe. And also, we are pleased, sir, that today's session is attended by students from various study programs at Institute Technology School of November, representing both undergraduate and postgraduate level, including undergraduate students from industrial product design, visual communication design, information system, medical technology, and master student from the Master of Innovation Management and Technology SIMT. Your presence in this interactive session reflect the growing commitment of our academic community to explore the intersection between design, technology, and inclusivity. Okay, before we start the session, I would like to introduce our speaker, Professor Carmen Hartmann-Menzel. So, Professor Carmen has been appointed as a professor in the Interaction Design program, focusing on design management and methodology since 2019. She studied integrated design at Anhalt University of Applied Science in Dessau, Germany, and industrial design at the Cleveland Institute of Arts, USA. She later joined the research project Design Planning and Management at the Institute for Integrated Design at the University of the Art Bremen. In 2004, she founded her own design studio, Desain-Menzel, specializing in this industrial design for companies in the laboratory, medical, and public sectors. Since 2009, she has been active in the development of digital system and application at Rocket Media, GmbH, and company KG, working with clients in the banking and financial sector, construction industry, and mechanical and electrical engineering. Her work also includes consultancy in the development of digital business models. She is also involved in adult education in accordance with the standard of the International Usability and User Experience Qualification Board. Professor Hartmann-Menzel has taught several institutions, including Keimyang University, Daegu, South Korea, University of Kassel, Germany, Anhalt University of Applied Science, Dessau, and IADE Lisbon, HFJ Swabisgemein, Bachelor and Master Programs, Ellen University in the User Experience courses. Now, it is my great pleasure to welcome our speaker for today's lecture, Professor Carmen Hartmann-Menzel from Germany. Professor Carmen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the very warm welcome. I will now share my screen, if that's okay, and then we can start. So thank you very much, especially that you all came here today. I hope I can bring something into it with the under the headline of UX for empowering people with disabilities. But this will not be all. This will be one of the focus points I will talk about today. Thank you very much in advance to the organization team. I was very well accompanied in the organization and preparation for today's lecture. So I hope as I said, could prepare some interesting things for you and aspects of usability and user experience. I, for the first, would like to add on something. Here you see myself also with different hairstyle, yeah, when I was studying in Dessau. I studied, as already was mentioned by Naila, industrial design and brand communication. The program in Dessau was in some terms a little bit special because it offered a basic course for everybody, which was the same. And then you got into depth into a particular field. So you could choose in between visual communication design, product design, and digital media. And my emphasis was industrial design. So my diploma thesis was a dough kneading machine. So this is a machine for preparing pastry, for making bread, for mid-sized and small-sized bakeries. So I did the construction, the whole design, as well as the control of the machinery. So that was maybe my starting point in terms of dealing with usability and user experience. After that, as Naila already said, I was part of a research program. We were busy to develop a toolbox, which you see on the right. It should provide some methods and tools for managing design processes. So it was about design management and methodology, which was not very common these days in the beginning of the 2000s. Yeah. Today we know a lot about methodology, but at that time it was not so common in, especially the design profession in Europe. From that, I went to South Korea to Kunjungi University in Daegu and taught there for 1.5 years design basics in the bachelor's and also in the master's programs, as well as design methodology and design management. And then I already came to the school, which name is difficult to pronounce, the Hochschule für Gestaltung in Schwäbisch Gmünd. In the very beginning, I was responsible for the international program as well as quality management, but I also taught their design management in the bachelor's and master's degrees programs, like in product design, interaction design, and strategic design, which is our master program. And then I went into the industry and changed my profession away from investment goods and product design into the development of digital products. So, I'm sorry, what we do there is doing user research, doing user requirements engineering, doing the design, prototyping, and testing. So every activity which is recommended in human-centered design. And in 2019, I was announced as a professor at the Hochschule für Gestaltung in Schwäbisch Gmünd. Here you see our beautiful building. We are one of the smallest university in Germany. We have just about 700 students being enrolled in the school in our programs. We have 3 bachelor and 1 master's program. So the bachelor programs are visual communication design, product design, and interaction design, where I teach. and the master's program Strategic Design, where I also teach design studies. We are just a design faculty. There are no other faculties. So that's why we are so small. But that has some advantages because we are very flexible and we have a very strong connection to our students. And we are happy to be in a very nice building from the late 19th century, an Art Deco building where we do our seminars and also our exhibitions at every end of the semester. We invite people from outside the school to see the projects which have been developed during the semester from the different bachelor's and master's programs. And our students have the opportunity to show what they've done and also to gain their job or to ease up their job entrance. One specialty of our school is a very systematic basic program. When I visited ITS, I saw some similarities on that. So that is why I was very thrilled about your school when I visited it in February. So we have a very systematic design approach, a very rule-based design approach, and that is something quite special also in Germany. Students do not just work with physical materials, but for sure also with digital devices. They also develop digital products. And I would like to give you some insights into some of my students' projects so that you can see what I teach in interface design. I was appointed in 2019 as a part-time professor. So I'm still also in the industries. I still work in product development in the private sector. So I teach and work. So that's also maybe something a little bit special. This is a project about an e-scooter and the whole system, like service system around renting e-scooters. So the students developed the physical product on one hand and concentrated very much on the control of the e-scooter, but they also took care of the rental services and navigation with the e-scooters in urban areas because you're not allowed to drive an e-scooter everywhere. So you need to be guided to get around in the way you would like to. So what our students usually do, they do also user research, as many of you also do. They go into the field, they try to understand the requirements of users, who the user groups are, and then they develop their prototypes. In this case, they also did a lot of ergonomic studies for the handles and the electronic engineering to give good feedback, haptic feedback on the handle of the e-scooter. When you navigate through the city, when you have to turn left or right, it was supported by light and vibration in the handles of the scooter. This is another project from students. They redesigned the cockpit for truck drivers. This is a very stressful job. The streets in Europe are quite filled. There's a lot of traffic jams. Those people have a very, very difficult job to do because they have to communicate with their logistics centers and they have to use a lot of different devices, as you can see on the left. And during driving, they sometimes have to interact with digital devices, with touch screens, which distracts them from the road. So driving security can be a problem. So the students developed a different system. They brought different products together in one. They redefined the whole process of preparation of the ride, the interaction during the ride, and the unloading of the truck, where the goods ever have been brought to, they have to be unloaded, and then the logistics center again has to be informed. They also did some prototypes, they did usability testing, and then developed a haptic interface, which was connected to the driver's seat to control a digital device, not just with your hand, with a haptic interface, but also with your speech. So it was also speech driven. And here you can see some of the screens they have developed for the communication device with a logistics center for the truck drivers. And the last one I would like to show you is a bachelor's project. The students were busy with the working space of air traffic controllers. So they are responsible for bringing down airplanes to the airport and also to support the starts. So they make the logistics. Yeah, they guide the pilots through the airspace. And as you can imagine, this is a very there are many security guidelines which need to be considered, and it's a very stressful and responsible job. So they also did user research, prototyping. They developed a big screen where they brought together different services and also developed a haptic input pan to control the different parts and tasks air controllers have to do in their professional work, and also did some testings with the user group. So you can see this is quite a wide range of different topics. Our students choose them usually by themselves, and then they go through the whole process of human-centered design. So that was just to give you an impression of my work and my students' work. And for sure, now we should go into what we are going to do in here today. This is the overview of the lecture content. I discussed that with your professors and the organizational team in preparation of this lecture, and hope this will give you some new and interesting insights. I will first talk about some general concepts of usability, user experience, accessibility, and their coherence. I will do that based on particular standards we follow in our teaching, as well as in the industry, in our practical work. And maybe this is a different angle or different point of view, how to take a look on these different concepts and terms. And then I will go deeper into digital product development, where accessibility needs to be taken into account. There are also some standards and guidelines which you could use, and some thumb rules, let's say. If you take care of them, you can do a lot of very good things for people with disabilities, to make things accessible and to let them take part in daily routines everybody else also can take part in. We will take a look into important aspects for design in relation to accessibility. So what do you need to consider, and what does that mean for your work? And then we will also take a look into different forms of evaluation in addition to classic usability tests. I get some information about the courses you have taken during the semester, and I saw that you also already know about usability testing quite well. So that's great. And I would like to offer you some other thumb rules and standards which might help you to take different aspects of good usability and user experience into account. And to not forget things in your projects or during your project development. I can tell you that also happens in the practice that things get forgotten. So these standards and heuristics can help very well. And finally, before we go into a Q&A session, I will also give you a short insight into the use of AI in the context of UX. This changes things dramatically right now. We face a lot of a very high-speeded dynamic in how our processes in work get changed through AI. There's a lot of opportunities in it. We need to adjust to that technology. We need to gain some knowledge about it to use it. And there are also some threats, things which need to be considered working with AI, which I would like to offer you here today. Okay. So the format will be, I will give, as a lecturer, is like theoretical input, but I also would like to ask you some questions in between. Unfortunately, the Zoom meeting does not offer me the opportunity to start like little questionnaires I have prepared. But anyway, I have it on the slides. I have the questions on the slides, and I would very much appreciate if you just, yeah, say something into the room, some thoughts you might have in terms of those questions. I'm sorry that I can't offer little questionnaires. That would have been easier, but it's no problem. We will handle that anyway. Okay. The duration is in overall about 3 hours. We will have a break in between at around about 4:30 p.m. Your time, and we will have a final a question and answer session in the end. So if there is anything which was unclear, you can ask, or if you would like to know something in addition, feel free to ask. And if anything during the session goes wrong or you have a question, you may absolutely interrupt me. It's no problem. Yeah, you just talk into the room, because usually when I'm busy with talking, I do not see raising hands or not really observe the chat. So feel free to just talk. It's absolutely fine. And I will provide the slides afterwards if that's helpful. Do you have any questions so far? Okay, doesn't look like. Good. Then let's go into the first chapter, let's say, the concepts of usability, user experience, accessibility, and how they are interrelated. First of all, we will take a look into the approach of human-centered design. This is something which is defined in a beautiful norm, the Deutsche Industrienorm. This is the DIN ISO. That kind of industry norms were installed in the second half of the 19th century already, during industrialization in Europe. There were a lot of quality issues, security issues, and stuff like that. So in Germany, they started to define some norms to make manufacturing more secure, especially for people. That was one thing. The other was that parts which were produced in one production site should also be used in other products. So you needed standards to adapt several things into more complex products in general. We still use those DIN ISO standards in many processes in quality management and manufacturing, in architecture, in urban planning, and also in computer interaction, or as this one is called here, the human-centered design of interactive systems. Human-centered design usually starts with a topic you have to tackle. And you, in the very beginning, usually start to think about how you can deal with that. So you make any kind of plan, what kind of design do you need to go through a project. And then you start with understanding and specifying the context of use. Let's say you do user research. You talk to people, you go into the field, you make observations, you might do surveys and questionnaires to understand what people need and what they do. From that, you derive user requirements. So what do people need in the product which needs to be developed to execute their tasks and to reach their goals? On base of that, of those requirements, you start your design. You develop general concept, you start doing first prototypes, and those prototypes you can use for evaluation. You can get feedback on that. You can talk to people, you can things let be tested. And if you see, oh, there are some problems, you might have to think about, is there requirements missing maybe? Or is there something I need to change in my design? Or do I maybe also have to go back to user research because I missed something in the field and maybe did not understand completely what users needed. So depending on your evaluation results, you derive further activities and work iteratively. So you go several times through these different activities to develop a solution, which in the end meets user requirements. By the way, in the practice, will the product which meets all user requirements. Yeah, there's no like product in the end, but we should usually do our very best to make it as good as possible for our users, for human beings. So the design or human-centered design is based on a very comprehensive understanding of what are or who are the users, what do they need, what tasks do they have to accomplish, and in which environments do they work. We involve them in every activity as far as possible. So we can ask them if we have specified our user requirements, is this list, is this everything you need? Is there anything else we might have forgotten? You can start co-creation sessions to develop first ideas together with users. And it's absolutely clear that in usability tests, users take part in that as participants to give you feedback on your design. And this is an iterative process, as I said. You go through these different activities again and again and take users' demands into account. But there is no like fixed order. That is why we do not talk about the human-centered design, but just the human-centered design or human-centered design framework. About if you have to do a redesign of an existing product, you may not start with user research, but with a usability test. Yeah, you make an evaluation of the existing product and then derive from that user requirements. Or sometimes maybe there just needs to be something new in an existing product. Then you go directly into the design activity. Yeah, don't do any user research or evaluation. That can also happen. So you can start at any activity in this framework. So that means this is not a process with a defined starting and ending point. This is important to make sure that the methodology we use and the activities we do in a development process is flexible. It's not like you have to do this and that, and in any case, and in every case, you have to think about what would you like to accomplish and how can you get there. Yeah, so you plan your process on yourself. You also always think about the whole user experience, what the difference in between human-centered design, usability, and user experience is. We will take a look on that later on. And you usually work in interdisciplinary teams. And this is something which also dramatically changes with the technology of AI. So you need to work with engineers, with developers, with product owners, with product managers. The case in the design practice, at least in Europe, but this will be combined even stronger through the impact of AI and why this will be we will see in the end. So you know the different results which are usually gained from the different activities. So in the very beginning, you make usually a rough plan. You do your user research. Out of that, you get user profiles, personas, task models, scenarios, how the product is used right now, and the journey maps. As I got the information from your professors, you know about these terms, so we don't have to discuss them here in more in depth. Then the requirements which users have, the user needs and user stories. This is a user story is just a particular kind of writing down user requirements to provide them in a development team, especially in agile development. I know how familiar you are with agile development of especially software. It comes from the field of software development, but is also implemented in other professions today. And exists since 20 years. So you try to be very flexible in your development process. You do not follow a lot of documentation, but you talk a lot in your team. You have a very strong exchange between different professions. This is like the rough nature of agile development. And in that you use user stories to define requirements and user requirements for the development. In the design, we develop use scenarios. So we make a projection of how a product or a new product, an innovation might be used in the future. We can tell that in storytelling and use scenarios, also storyboards, improved user journey maps, task models. We develop information architectures, to structure the whole service and product overall. And from that, we derive navigation structures. We develop style guides, wireframes and wireflows, as well as high and low fidelity prototypes, which are the things we can test in evaluation and usability tests. And from that, we write down evaluation reports and again, put new requirements into user stories. In general, when we do user research and specify user requirements, we talk about the problem space. That means during these activities, we should not think too much in solutions, but in questions. We should closely listen to our users, what they need, what they do, what challenges and obstacles they face. When we think early solutions already, we narrow down our opportunities for innovation. If we think of a particular technology, that technology will constrain our design process. So try to open up in the very beginning, try to learn from the field, and don't think too much about a possible solution too early. That happens when you start to design and when you evaluate things. So this is just to make some mind when you do user research. Try to forget your own experience, listen to the others. This is a very important approach from my point of view. So human-centered design is an approach to design that aims to make interactive systems more usable by focusing on the use of the interactive system. You don't talk about so much about technology or something, or business models and things like that. As designers, we are responsible for the use of interactive systems, that works good as possible. And so we apply human factors, ergonomic knowledge and methods on that in human-centered design. Do you have any questions so far? Everything understandable, I hope?
Yes,
Okay.
everything is clear. Maybe any question from the participant? Okay,
Everything okay?
let's go on.
Okay. Thank you. So let's take a look again on these terms. As far as understood, you come from different faculties, and what do you associate the term of usability? Just name some things. You can just tell them, speak them out loudly, because I'm sorry, I can't really start the poll. I prepared. So any ideas? Feel free. Any
Kenshi, maybe?
association with, pardon?
Kenshi? cannot see something or cannot use the eyes. Usability.
Yeah. Things should be clearly visible, for example, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Anything else?
It has a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a purpose. People have a purpose, right? When they work. Okay. Anything else? The word how to do things. Yeah.
Hello, Prof. Carmen.
Hello. Hi, Erna.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm late because of
No
my
problem.
previous meeting. Yeah, maybe I think it's about being able to use. It's understandable to use.
Yes, absolutely. Things should be used easily. Yeah. When we go back to our beautiful DIN ISO norm, it says usability describes the extent to which an interactive system can be used by specified users. So we have particular user groups to achieve specified goals with effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction in a specified context of use. That sounds a little bit abstract, but don't be worried. These three attributes are important insofar that you can measure them. You can measure them, for example, by usability tests. And what they mean is effectiveness describes the completeness and accuracy of target achievement. Think of an example. You would like to travel to Jakarta by train. So therefore you need a train ticket. I don't know how you purchase it, maybe by a mobile app or a web, or maybe you go to a ticket machine. But your task or your goal is to get maybe the cheapest ticket you can get and the fastest connection you can get from Surabaya to Jakarta. So this is your goal. Therefore, you have to go through just several tasks. You have to decide when you will go. Will you go alone? Will you go within a group? What to choose? What trains can you choose? When would you like to arrive? So these are all little tasks and decisions you have to make until you get your ticket. And in the end, you need to have a ticket, otherwise you cannot travel. So effectively, when you have gone through your different decisions and tasks, in the end, you need to have a ticket. When that works, effectiveness is checked. It's fine. Yeah, then you can reach your goal and complete your task. Yeah, to be prepared for your travel to Jakarta. Efficiency is about that you use as less resources, as little resources as you can. It shouldn't take you a lot of time to purchase your ticket. You shouldn't face any obstacles. As Irna said, things should be clearly understandable. Sometimes there are like maybe some expert terms you don't understand, or the train company, they maybe use internal terms which are not known by you. So you wonder, what is this about? Okay, so efficiency means you should spare resources as far as possible, like time, material expenditure, or financial expenditure, or even mental load. Yeah, somebody said things should be visually clear. Absolutely. If a typeface is too small or contrast is too bad, it needs more time. Yeah, you have to get closer to the screen. You can't really read it. It's difficult to understand. It's difficult to process in your brain and things like that. So efficiency is also very important and can be measured with usability tests. How fast can people get through a task? And another thing is satisfaction. So how did this feel? Did you get what you expected? Were all the steps and all the decisions you wanted to make, were they asked you during the purchase of your ticket, during the whole process? Did you get the ticket you wanted, and was everything as you expected? That attribute can be measured by questionnaires or interviews. So usually, as you know, in a usability test, in the end, you ask 2 or 3 or 5 questions about the satisfaction of your participant. So you can measure these 3 attributes of usability easily with conducting a usability test. User experience is a little bit bigger than usability. It includes all perceptions and reactions of a person resulting from the actual or expected, which means anticipated use of an interactive system. So think again about the ticket example. Yeah, you travel to Jakarta. You know maybe something about the train company. Friends told you, oh, their service is very good, or maybe not so good, or their offerings are quite pricey, or they are not so expensive, and kind and careful service on the train. You have seen maybe advertisement of the train company and everything like that. So these all were touch points. So you have a particular expectation when you start purchasing a ticket already, yeah, about the quality of the service. So user experience includes usability, which means the direct interaction between you and the interactive system, like a ticket machine or a ticket counter or a ticket app. It includes all opinions, feelings, and sensations before, during, and after using the system. And it also depends on brand image, general presentation of the corporation, and things like that. So it includes, let's say, every touch point you have with a corporation or a service provider. So this is much, much more, or means much, much more than usability. Usability is about the direct use of a product, user experience about every touch point with a service offering. We could also say that, or put that into a kind of like user experience pyramid. So the very most important thing is accessibility. You need to know about the service. You need to be, or it needs to be accessible for everybody. Whether you are maybe tired or maybe disabled or whatsoever, everybody should be able to access the service. Then the service should deliver you some value. It should make what you want to make with it. It should be suitable for your tasks and your expectations. So usability is important in here. And if it makes fun, you are very satisfied, and maybe you feel a joy of use and positive emotions. Yeah, this all is about user experience. Okay, so usability is in that. Let's have a look on that again with a simple example. You all know that situation. Laundry you have to do. I hate doing laundry. So that's why I usually ask my husband to do that, you know? So I'm off it. But yeah, sure, you have to wash your clothes from time to time. That's quite clear. Otherwise, your social relationships might suffer. So what is the goal of users? It's probably not owning a washing machine, right? Washing machine is just a very nice thing which helps and support you to do your laundry and to get clean laundry and clean clothes. So your goal is usually that. And this is your like tool you use to reaching that goal. That means you have to Sorry, is there a question? Oh, I'm sorry. I just heard a voice. So you have to interact with that machine to get you to your goal of clean laundry. You have to choose a program, the temperature, you have to fill powder in and everything. And that, as we have heard, should be efficiently, effectively, and satisfactory. Yeah. So your task should be easily done and with the result you have expected. There should nothing go wrong in the best case. So this is usability. And it depends on also the context of use. you know your washing machine, if it's your own one, in your private laundry room. If you work, if you live in an apartment, there are also other washing machines. So for example, when I moved out an apartment a couple of years ago, we carried our washing machine from the cellar onto the truck. There fell orange socks out of it. Somebody used my washing machine. And I was always wondering where the washing powder was gone. So yeah, I didn't lock it. I didn't think that anybody would use it, so I didn't care, but somebody did. So this is a different situation. Or if you go into a public laundrette, other people are also there. They stay in a queue. They watch you what you do with your laundry. They see your underwear. You have to get adjusted to the different interface of the washing machine. Or if you go to a campsite facility, you have to maybe get some coins, particular coins at the service desk to have access to those washing machines. So you see, even though it's a very simple example, depending on the context, the requirements for the interaction can be a little bit slightly different. Yeah, but the goal is always the same. You want to have clean laundry. So the direct interaction with the washing machine is about usability. Any other touch points with the service provider of the product is about user experience. So for example, the brand Bosch, it's a very famous German brand here in South Germany. You know it usually, yeah, and you have particular expectations that they provide high quality. They are not too expensive, it's okay, but yeah, you would compare prices and compare with other products before you buy one, for example. Then if you have it, you work with it, but it also can get broken, or there's also an end of life for the machine, and then it needs to be recycled. And all these different touch points you have with the service provider round about the machine, this is about user experience. Okay? Any questions so far to that? Okay. Then let us go on.
Excuse me.
Yes, sure.
Sorry, can we back to the pyramid?
Yes.
A joy of use, usability, utility, and accessibility.
Yeah.
The pyramid before. Which layer of the UX pyramid do you think is the most critical in healthcare apps?
In healthcare apps, the most critical one is
Healthcare apps,
accessibility.
Yeah, the critical, yes.
And yeah, and usability. That depends on, we will talk about this right away. It has to do with the inclusion of disabled people during the development process, from my experience. Yeah. A lot of people try to do very good things for especially elder people, and they have some prejudices in their heads. Everybody has. Everybody of us has a particular mental model, how we see the world, how we experience things. And we also have some prejudices about elder people, for example, and we think that they act in this or that way. So we usually put our expectations into that during the development, but we should include them. This is the most important thing to me. Then you can discover can people start a lot of obstacles in digital products, and they get in some ways from daily routines everybody else can do. Yeah, like discounts in supermarkets in Germany. Yeah, you can't get a discount particular products you buy if you don't use an app. But this app is for everybody. And my mother, she has her problems. Yeah, she can't sometimes read things because they are too tiny, or the contrast is not fitting well. So yeah, I think accessibility and usability are the most important things. Does that answer the question?
Okay, thank you.
What is the context of use? What is part of the context of use? What are your ideas? Any assumptions?
Maybe like
Any feedback?
how to operate or how to use the feature of the part.
Yeah. Like resources you use? Yeah, right. Anything else? What do you
Maybe
look at when you do user research?
hardware or software,
What do you
maybe?
analyze?
Context of use, hardware or software, maybe?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. No more comments. So then let's have a look at it. The context of use, when we do user research, we take a look at who are the users and how can I describe them? What is special about them? What is their tasks and goals? What do they want to have in the end when they use a product? Which resources, like software, technology, what you named, is used, and in which environment do people use things? And you can find out about like your classical user research methods, doing interviews, doing surveys and questionnaires, focus or user surveys or observations. Yeah, you go to the field and watch people, how they do things. And then you can doing your documentation in terms of user journey maps, task models, and empathy maps. Yeah, as we have seen before in the human-centered approach. Yeah, there were these results also tackled. So if we go back to our like train example, yeah, you see here the situation, confuse, where a customer buys a train ticket at a service desk. So we have here two different groups of users. We have the client and we have the service lady from the train provider. They both are in the same context, but their tasks and goals are different. The guy here wants to have a ticket in the end, and she wants to do a very good job and offer a good opportunity and a good travel connection. Yeah, so they also do different things. She asks questions and he gives her the answers, when to travel, where to travel, how many people to travel, and she types them into an interactive system, like the ticketing system, for example. Users are all persons who directly use an interactive system or use data being generated by it. These are called indirect users. Why is that important? It's important to take a look at both of those groups because that means something to your product in the end. Within the direct users, we also divide into primary users, like the service lady. Yeah, she is typing in things into the computer to specify the fitting ticket for the client. Yeah, so she interacts with the system directly to reach a particular goal, getting a ticket out of it. But there's also other people dealing with the interactive system, like service technicians, people doing support, being responsible for installation, configuration, or updating the system. They also work with it, but with a different approach and from a different point of view. They take a look into the backside, let's say, or the back office of the system, but they are important. If you have ever tried to repair like a coffee machine or something like that, you have faced what it means to be a secondary user. These are often not very well supported. but they are also important because they can deliver a lot of costs for a service provider or company. And indirect users, they use data being generated on the interactive system. As far as I understood, a lot of you doing right now a service, a purchasing service or e-commerce system for people who like to buy paint, right? Like for refurbishment of your home. So these are these clients, yeah, buying the paint, they are primary users. And when they place an order, yeah, the provider of the paint, he needs to process that order. So it means he needs to know some data about, yeah, who has ordered it, where to ship the stuff to, what is the specification of the paint the person has ordered. Otherwise, they cannot process the order. So these indirect users are also important. The data they need to be put in by primary users as well. So it's important to take a look at those as well. So again, to another example, a ticket machine is a system. Yeah, you can work with it and get a ticket there. Travelers are primary users. They type things here to get a ticket out of here. They do the payment at the machine and they execute different tasks. Service technicians are secondary users. They keep the system running, yeah? So they take of it. So they take a look at the backside of the interactive system. They are both direct users. They have their hands in and on the interactive system directly. Travelers, they generate the data for the ticket, and these generated data need to be checked by train attendants. They need to check, is the right person on the right train with the right ticket? Yeah. So these are the so-called indirect users, and all they need to know also needs to be typed in here as well. So it's important to take a look at all these different kinds of direct and indirect users, primary as well as secondary. Just take a look. There seems to be, yeah, there was, yeah. Very good. User task, equipment, tech, and environment. These are the parts of a context of use. And I go a little bit forward. For us, users are the most important stakeholders in a project. Yeah. If you, I don't know how much you already know from like the practical work in the industries. Some of you might have worked already or done an internship. The professors in here also probably have connections to the industry. So you know that you have also different stakeholders when you do a project in the industries. Yeah, there are like product managers, managing directors, heads of departments or whatsoever. You have to deal with all that different kind of people. But the most important stakeholders in any project are the users. Why is that? This is, by the way, a stakeholder matrix. It helps you to understand, okay, how do I have to deal with which group in a project? It comes from project management. So how much power or influence do particular stakeholder have, and how much interest or concern? And derived from that, I have to, yeah, talk to them more intensely than to others. Yeah. If users means clients do not have any value out of the product is senseless. It's not needed. If a company develops a product which is not accessible, not usable, not of value for clients, then they just burn a lot of money. So that's why users are the most important stakeholders in any project. Without them, the product is, without their satisfaction, the product is not needed. And we as designers, we are their advocates. Yeah, we bring their requirements and tasks and topics into the projects. Yeah, that's our role, or a very important part of our role, because we want to support them fulfilling their tasks. Yeah, that in the end, all user groups are happy with the result they gained. Yeah? So we need to understand what users do, what is their goal, what is their desired work result, and what activity is needed to reach that goal. Those tasks can be divided in subtasks, and those subtasks give us a very good idea already about what kind of interaction, what interaction steps are needed later on in the product. So it's very important to understand the tasks users execute to know, okay, that is what information they need during their execution of tasks, and that is the functionality they need, and these are the features they need, yeah, to in the end get quickly through this, because that is what we want to do. We want to give them the best support as possible, completing their tasks with a product or service. And some of you mentioned already, therefore equipment is required. Yeah, the lady here, she has a computer, a screen, she has a writing pad. Yeah, she can write things down here by hand to digitize it. And there is, for the card payment, there is hardware around here, which is all used, and the computer under the desk and the software. These are all parts of the equipment which is provided to the people in this context. And she sure also has papers, guidelines, maybe some hints in paper form, any kind of forms and books or whatsoever, also in her desk boards behind her working space. So these resources are all important to know and to understand, to see, why do they do that in a way? Maybe some things are in the practice more complicated than they should be or could be. So can we maybe spare one or parts of the equipment? Can things be done easier? So it's important to understand this as well. So therefore, you should always go into the field when you do user research, not just do questionnaires, really go into the situation, go into context, and get a good overview what the surrounding is like, what technologies is used, what work equipment, how much time do people need? Is that maybe connected to costs, to financial resources which are used, and also physical and mental effort? Because depending on the environment, the physical or mental effort can change. Yeah. I mean, this image here we started with is very clean and plain. Yeah, we have two people. The situation seems quite relaxed. She is smiling and everything seems to be fine. But in reality, it looks more like this. Yeah, service desk and counters at the German train system, they are usually overcrowded. Yeah, people's trains, they go into there, they need to book another train, they are under stress, they might be in a bad mood, yeah, because the train system in Germany right now faces a lot of challenges. So you cannot really expect that the train arrives in time. So all this surrounding, the noise of people talking, has influence on the usability of interactive systems, because your ability to concentrate, for example, can be distracted as a user. So the environment is about all the given circumstances and conditions in which users work. And you see here some examples, yeah, which differ from physical, social, and technical environment. For example, in the food industry, people have to wear particular clothing for hygienic reasons. Yeah, they have to wear hats. They work in cold rooms. Yeah, the temperature is lower than, which is nice to us as human beings, because the food needs to be cooled. Yeah, they have to work which constrain your opportunity for interaction. Yeah, but they also use scales, they use touch screens and things like that. They might have fat on their fingertips. So this has some impact on opportunities of interaction. Or think of manufacturing surroundings. It might be very noisy. The light surrounding might not be perfect. You have to work, talk to people. There is forklifting, driving around and things like that. So other machinery. So this is also a stressful environment, or especially in the medical surrounding. I think we have people here from the medical department. They know, yeah, in a surgery theater, you might fight for a human being's life. So this is a very responsible task you have to fulfill. It's very stressful. You have to work in teams. This has to go smoothly. You have to watch, systems showing the status of the patient. The light situation is special. So this environment is more demanding than sitting on a sofa your holidays, for sure. So the environment, to understand that, to see what ways people have to walk and what they have to see, what they have to deal with, is very important to understand users in a very good way. All essential topics being combined with the context of use can be remembered with the acronym PACT. So you have to think about people, their activities, the context they work in, and the technologies, or let's say the equipment they use. So then you have a very good overview of a context of use. Do you have any questions so far?
Sorry,
Then,
comment.
yeah.
It's about the environment. How if we live in some place with the low technologies, like on the mountains, or maybe there is no have there is have a condition with bad condition, and we can get change to make some models for our users. How about that condition?
You mean like, I would, there are bad condition like, for example, you have limited access to the internet. This is a very difficult condition for digital services. You have to think about fallbacks. Is there, like, can you use the service without internet connection? Can you just use it without, access to the internet? Is that also possible? Depends on the task. If you need GPS, then, for example, there might be something or different technologies you could use. In any case, if you develop prototypes, you should also test them in those conditions to make sure or what limitations are still bearable, that you can work with it in that particular environment. Or do we need something different? Maybe sometimes digital devices do not work. We did once a project for woodworkers, and that was also, it was in Italy. And the Dolomites, it's a mountain area where you also have very limited access to the internet. So we offered a digital service, but before the woodworker would start his project at a client's house, he would load the data on the device, on his tablet, and then go to the client's house with no internet access, no problem, because the data were on the device. He could do everything, make the planning for a new kitchen, for example, and then go back to his office, and then could go to the manufacturer and ask for current prices or day-to-day prices. So maybe then the task also changes, and you have to think how you could solve the user's problems under those conditions with maybe workarounds or fallbacks. How would the process look like? Or maybe sometimes paper is still better. Could also be a result.
Yes, sometimes our back to the manual record. Yes, that's so true.
Thank you for the question. Okay, accessibility. I heard a lot of you are interested in accessibility And for sure, I think you have a lot of ideas why it is important in and for design. So maybe you have some comments on that in here right now.
There is a lot of users out there that needs something, right? So the accessibility is needed so that a lot of people can use it. You know, like what is it? I've heard of a book that is specifically made for people who could not see, right? And I thought it was so fascinating. And then maybe on a smaller scale, there's these games that would have accessibility settings where they would provide a color, what is it? Color gradation or something like a filter, so that a few people with color blindness, be it red, blue, or red, green, could actually see the games a lot better. And I think it's just so cool. So yeah, it's the
absolutely.
importance is so people can use them no matter how to lessen them being encumbered by things that they should have been. It should be really easy, basically.
Yeah, I totally agree. Nobody should be excluded, right? And if you consider terms of accessibility, you do things good for all of us, because we will have a look at the term of accessibility, which means maybe it's not just part of people, but maybe everyone who has to deal with that. So why is accessibility relevant? As you said, it means inclusion. Everybody should be able to take part in day-to-day routines. Nobody should be excluded. So it's an ethic reason, a very important ethic reason. Disability means a physical or mental impairment that has substantial and long-term adverse effect on person's ability to carry out daily routines. And the fact is that about 15 or approximately 15% of the world's population, they suffer from impairments and limitations. And this is not so little. Yeah, it's a lot of people. The other thing is that more than 1 billion people in overall as a number experience disabilities, and usually they do not just have one. So when you are blind, this can be combined with mental problems, or impairments with your mobility. That also can have something to do with your opportunity to concentrate for longer terms. So disability covers a very broad spectrum of limitations in general. Like motor skills, you already mentioned sight, but also hearing or cognition, and many, many more. And when they are combined, different of them combined, it gets even more complex. Just to show a number, in Germany live around about 85 million people. 7.8 of them are considered to severely being disabled. This is almost 10% of the total population. But this number is to be handled carefully because it's just the statistics. We don't really know. Usually when you are disabled, you get governmental funding and support from the government. But therefore you have to go through an audit. Yeah, you have to be qualified as being disabled. So a lot of people avoid this. They don't want to do that. So the numbers know of, there might be much more. 70% of those people, they acquire disabilities during their lifetime. May it be from an accident or any kind of illness, or just because of aging. Yeah, elder people usually face more and more disabilities, especially in mobility, seeing and hearing. 78 of those are therefore over 55 years old. So I'm already facing that that kind of age in a couple of years. So the chance to get to gain disabilities increases when you're getting older. But on the other hand, this is not just an ethical, but also an economic, that is 720 billion euro of free purchasing power per year is kept in that group. So that is also a very good argument to say to companies, come on, you should really care about accessibility, because it does not just increase your quality of your products, but also aspect who can use your products and services. Disabled people might have difficulty to recognize symbols, understand words or phrases, concentrate for longer periods, distinguish colors. You already mentioned color blindness. See, hear, use a keyboard or mouse, or move at all. So the range is very, very wide. That means in design, we have carefully to think about fonts and contrasts, what kind of font we use, how big it is, what contrasts we use, how the interface is designed, prepared, and structured, that we offer different channels for perception. So if you use images, you should also describe them textually. We will go deeper into that later on. The structure of your product should be very clear and hierarchically logical. And you have to think about in and outputs. How do I put something into a system, type something in? Do I talk to my Siri or whatever I do? What opportunities for inputs do I have? What outputs do I get from the system? And how is the feedback like that I understand and can follow during the dialogue with the interactive system? Disabilities can occur from birth or later in life, as we already have heard. 20% of people are usually around about are born with their impairment, so they grow up with it. Disabilities, and this is the interesting part of it, can be permanent or temporary. Everybody of us can and will face and has faced disabilities once or several times in his or her life. When you have a broken leg, you're disabled. You have some impairment with your mobility. If you have slept very badly and have to do an exam, you know what that means to your concentration. So also this is disabilities, which means, as I said, doing a good accessibility in products is good for everyone, yeah, in general. Disabilities can change depending on your conditions, your personal physical conditions, or depending on the situation you face. So for example, when you know that from a practical and personal experience, when we go back to our ticket machine, when the sun shines brightly on the screen, you can't read it. The contrast is too low and you can't interact with the thing. So also these conditions, surroundings are important to think about, and they can create obstacles which are not very good for users. You mentioned, Ashila, already some aspects of visual impairment. Accessibility tries to address and include attributes and characteristics in an interactive system that should enable people with impaired vision, hearing, dexterity or mobility, cognition, to interact also effectively and efficiently with an interactive system. On the right, you can see an example of a guy who has changed the system settings of his computer. Luckily, we have today in the operating systems like Windows and iOS, we have a lot of standards already included which allow settings for a better accessibility. So this guy here, he has changed the color range and also the size of the user interface elements. And we as designers know that yellow and green are quite close on the color wheel together. The contrast is not very, very high, the color contrast. But for him, this is a good contrast. Yeah. And he can do the settings in the way he needs them to interact with the computer and the software being offered in here. Down here, you can see some simulations of vision impairments like glaucoma, cataract, and tunnel vision and retinitis pigmentosa. Doesn't matter how those illnesses are named, but you can see that it's different impairments of vision which can happen. So the range of visual impairment is very, very wide. Yeah, it's not just about, let's say, blindness. Yeah, but also color blindness, lack of particular fields in your vision field, or other things like you see things dizzy. When you can make a short experiment, just stretch your hands like I do here right now, yeah, to the right and left of your body, and then you close them slowly in, and you can see what the impression is like. We don't see much here. We think we have a vision of 180 degrees, but it's not really true. The part we see sharp is just 5 degrees. We move our eyes so quickly, and we especially react very sensitive on movements, that we think that we see everything sharp, but we don't. Yeah, it's just a very, very small part of our view, which is really sharp. That's why we sometimes oversee things which are not in that focus. Think about, for example, when you fill in a form. Yeah, you fill in maybe a complex form on a web page, maybe for the government, and you send it and nothing happens because maybe you have forgotten to fill in a required field, or something went wrong. If the arrow dialogue is not closely to where you concentrate on right now, then the send button, you miss it. Yeah, so things belonging together should be represented together because our vision is very comparably quite small. Yeah, and if we take accessibility aspects into account, we also help people in general. Yeah. Here you see some things I will go a little bit deeper into. What I recommend is to get an idea about how visual impairment feels like. Use that kind of simulation glasses. You see my colleague and me using them here. You get a very good impression and a very good empathy on about how a visual impairment can be like. So you see things dizzy, you see just a very small part of your view, parts of your vision field are dizzy. There's a wide range, but this helps very much to get a very good idea about what can be wrong if you can't see properly. What you see here on the right, on the left top, I'm sorry, on the left top, is a screen reader. We will have a deeper look on that in a sec. This is assistive technology which helps people with technology in general. As I already mentioned, in the running systems or system settings of Windows and iOS, there's already a lot of very good stuff, settings which are available for people to change sizes, contrasts, and colors of the visual representation on the screen. But depending on the severe visual impairment, other assistive technologies can be required, like screen readers. Screen readers is a system of hardware, as you can see here on the right, combined with software. I just go once back. Yeah, here, for example, you see a software running on a web page. Yeah, it goes through a web page logically, and then translates texts and images and functions to auditive information. It reads that information aloud. These things usually get added to a computer system and give support to people with severe visual impairment. Actually, what you mentioned before, books for reading for the blind, is based probably or usually on the so-called Braille alphabet. This is what you see here on the top right. It's a haptic alphabet. It was developed in France in the 19th century. And with your fingertips, you just move over the pages, and then you can read the letters. Yeah, it's just a haptic alphabet, let's say. The same you can see here in the keyboard. There are little pins, these white little things here. The software reads, or the assistive software, it reads a website, for example, and then transform the information into the Braille alphabet. And the person then can feel it. Yeah. They can also type in Braille, and then the software retranslated as translates this as an order to the computer again. I have brought a video, therefore shortly I have to again share my screen anew, because you also need the auditive channel. Oh, this didn't work. I hope you have to tell me if you can hear it. If the sound is also audible.
This is Mark Sutton from the University of California, San Francisco's.
Can you hear him?
Yes,
Yeah.
the audio is good.
Yeah, it's okay. Great. So then let's have a look.
IT Web Services Department. Here today with a brief tour of screen reading technology. I'm a blind person who has been using screen readers, railroaders, scanning adaptive tech since my childhood. What is, for example, I start to read this page. And what I will now do is slow down the speech rate.
75%. You have seen the screen reader went through the different links up here. University of California, San Francisco, and it read it aloud. You couldn't really recognize what it was saying, right? It was so quick. Yeah, people being used to that kind of systems, they are amazing. If you are not used to it, you can't understand what they are really doing there. Speed is incredible, and therefore also the mental load. So, for example, in Germany, blind people, when they work, when they have a job, they work less hours than people with normal vision abilities, because they have to concentrate so much on all that kind of different channels they have to use to compensate their visual impairment, that they cannot work full hours. Yeah. So let's go on.
UCSF Medical Center. So as I was about to say, a screen reader converts what's on a computer screen into information that can be displayed through synthetic speech or Braille output. And it does that by allowing you to use a computer instead of a mouse, a computer keyboard instead of a mouse. It can also use a Braille display as an input device. And with navigation. And what it does is it cleverly determines what's on the screen and presents you that information in a way that would allow for efficient navigation of these pages. So for incident, link, image, home.
I go a little forward because I want to show you something special. I will, as I said, provide the slide afterwards, so then you can have access to the video anyway and can look or watch it in full length. So let's have take a look at here.
I have a couple graphics on this page.
Mark Sutton hands on the MacBook Pro image.
So the first one is well described and uses an alt tag.
You are currently on it.
To describe what that graphic is all about. Now we go to the next graphic.
Reader 042116.jpg.
Much less useful.
So you see, screen readers can also read aloud textual information on an image. So on the first image, the situation or what can be seen on the image was described based on text, the so-called alt text. It's an alternative text. Yeah, so that helps blind people to understand, okay, this is some additional information in the picture. In this here, that alt text is missing, and the screen reader just can read the name of the file, which is reader 0421. It doesn't make any value to the user. So I just want to hint or point on that, because we will talk about this later on, that it's important to offer different channels of access so that things are readable by machines. And therefore, you need to add on some descriptions, especially on visual appearances and visual representations on the screen. And it also means something to your design. Okay, let's go on. So these assistive technologies, they try or they give support to compensate some impairments and offer additive channels for consuming information or getting access to technology and functionality. So that means they can provide visual information into the auditive channel, reading them aloud, or they display spoken image on texts, like you know that from videos when you have the underlines, yeah, textual underlines, for example, or things can be enlarged. And in addition, there is also other inputs available, like on the top right, you see a head control. This person can't move at all, so he has to control the computer with his hand, because this is the only limb he can still move. Or other mobility impairments can be compensated with customized buttons and inputs, as you see a range down here, particular range. They have usually provide bigger buttons or bigger wheels, which can be turned around to control a system. And additionally, you can also find service apps. For example, there are apps out, they give you support when you're in a wheelchair. They tell you, okay, in which urban environment can you actually move quite obstacle-free, let's say. So the pavement is low, you can cross the street here or there. There are stairs, how can you go around those and stuff like that. So this is also available. And it goes up to, product or business models. Like you can see the own phone. This is a very low fidelity phone, which can be customized. So you can add on, like, again, a Braille alphabet for blind people. So you can have a touch interface on your phone. Or people with mental disorders, they can just make them very, very easy. They just put the list of their contacts on the very front, and then they just have the starting a call or ending a call. That's it, or answering a call. So the functionality is very much stripped down to very basic functionalities, but you as a customer can decide what you need, and then they customize your phone for you. So it lacks a lot of technology and functionality which we have in usual smartphones to give access to people with specific demands. There's also a lot of regulations. We are right now in Europe facing a change in accessibility regulations from June on. So a couple of days, also private equities and companies have to match particular accessibility standards, which was a very, very long way to go. It took over and over to reach that standard today. There's still a lot of special rules for particular surroundings, but it's really a very good improvement. Before that, just governmental services needed to be accessible, not private ones. But now also private ones have to do something for a better accessibility, which is really great because United Nations, they asked for it. So the United Nations Convention demands accessibility. So it's no question that this is a very, very important topic. But there is not just the European Union. I'm sure that also in Indonesia, there might be guidelines and rules for accessibility, or maybe they are in the making. Depending on the market or where your product in the end should be offered, you should check if there are any like international standards or country-driven standards or guidelines. There are some basics things which are internationally recommended. For example, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. I don't know, maybe you've heard about it, like the WCAG. It's quite old already, I think almost 40 years since we have those guidelines. They are now heading to web accessibility, but they are also in general very good for digital accessibility in general. You can take a look at it. It's very, very detailed, and sometimes it does not really help you. There are other things we need to know or consider in design than every tiny little part of that guideline. You can't really accomplish everything. That's impossible. Yeah. So you have to think about who is your user groups, or who are your user groups, what are the guidelines and standards your client wants to reach, and what do we need to do for that to accomplish accessibility goals we have defined. You cannot really accomplish everything. It's too much. Nobody will pay for it in the end. Yeah, but you can do a lot of good things by just keeping some things in mind. So one thing is good accessibility can never be achieved in a project if not the whole team knows about it. Its importance, and every team member, the developer, the product manager, they need to know some general things about accessibility so that they can do something from their part. Or content managers, they are also very important, as well as designers. We have to work together to bring things together. When you do a layout or a design and you define like headline styles, headline 1, the main headline, subheadlines, different kinds of copy text, you give already a template for the technical implementation, because a technician will also in HTML write H1, which means headline 1, the main headline, head 2, H2, H3, and so on, yeah, to technically bring the structure from your layout into the technology, into the software. So it's important that we work together and that we also work with content managers, because they structure content and we give it the appearance, the visual appearance, to decide which typeface we use, which sizes we use, and how buttons look like. Some simple rules help a lot. The first one is make all elements accessible via the keyboard and make the focus clearly recognizable. You can give this a try. Enter a web page, go into the address field of your browser where the URL is usually typed in, set your cursor, and then use your tab on your keyboard and try to go through. You will see if the web page in general is accessible, you will see that a little highlight jumps from one part to the other on the web page. We will see another example later on. Yeah, If that works, and if the logic from headlines to copy text, for example, the first level of hierarchy in the navigation to second to third, if that jumps in that order, the tab jumps through, then you can say the web page is quite accessible. This is a very easy test you can do to ensure that. Then plan the page structure and clear, understandable headings to facilitate comprehension and interpretation. So when you do a good visual design, when you do a good layout, then you do a good job for in terms of accessibility. And provide suitable descriptive alternative text for images and videos. Yeah. So as you know it from transcriptions for videos. I've searched here one about Surabaya. So, so there's beside the vision and the audible is also a textual to access the information. The UK government has given some do's and don'ts. I won't go through this one by one because of the time, but you will get this with the slides, and you will also find the link to those posters. You can use them as like general supported thumb rules. Yeah. I think that's quite good. So I'm over the time already, Frank. I'm totally sorry. When I'm talking, then I'm talking. So I think we should take a short break. Thank you for the for the hint in the chat. Let us get together again at 12 o'clock. Not 12. At it's your time, 2 p.m. Right? No, it's in 15 minutes. Sorry, I'm confused with my time capsule. Is that okay? That we meet again in 15 minutes?
It is for 4 o'clock and 46. So we break until 5 p.m.
Yes, great. Thank you. That's the right time. 5
Okay.
p.m. We will meet again. Okay? Thank
Okay,
you.
all right,
See you then.
everybody. We are reaching the break time. Please take your time for Professor Carmen. For take a little rest and recharge the energy. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Naila. See you in a bit. Okay.
Hey, welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back. I hope you could recharge your energy a little bit.
Yes, I hope so. Let's now continue our session again. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. So here we go. Okay, let's have a conclusion of what we have heard so far about accessibility. Some things which might help already include people with disabilities already in your user research. Then you can get known about their demands and the obstacles they face. Agree standards with your clients. Yeah, what standards need to be reached, and check legal and other requirements and guidelines, may be industry or market specific, because they need to be taken into account. For example, in the medical field, we have a lot of guidelines in Germany and Europe, and I'm sure also in Indonesia, which need to be watched. And work as a team. all people being involved in the development of a product, from concept, content, technical implementation and development, should know about aspects of accessibility to make things happen in a good and right way. And also, if you do usability tests, include people with disabilities, because then you can really and practically see what they face and what might their problems be like to improve your product. And a very simple but practical hint is maybe you try to get those kind of simulation glasses to experience at least visual impairment by yourselves. It gives you a very good impression of how things feel like. It's good for your empathy, and also, yeah, gives you some support to understand the role of disabled people in a better way. And it's really easy. Do you have any questions so far? Otherwise, I would go to some
Excuse
hints
me.
and practical tips. Yeah.
Yeah. Earlier, I think before we left off, there was a few, what was it? A few manuals on different disabilities, like the do and don'ts and stuff. One of them was
Yeah.
users with anxiety, and I was very interested, but then we cut away. And can we hear a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. People who feel afraid of something, they are not very comfortable in bigger crowds, for example. They are very sensitive to stress, for example. So if they feel pressure because a time is running out, yeah, counting down or something, they might get distracted. So you should give them enough time to complete their tasks. They also need, or they have some demands in terms of reassurance. So if they buy something, they should have in the end a list of all the items they did in their cart to see, okay, this is surely what I did with my order, and now I can send it for the payment. Yeah. I will, as I said, provide you with the slides, and then you can have a deeper look into that. It's a disability in terms of stress sensitivity, let's say, yeah. And this is increasing in Europe, at least.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, people are anxious, especially the corona pandemic did something on that. Yeah, people feel insecure, especially younger people. Yeah, that's really a problem. Okay, what does that mean for design in practical ways? One important thing is the handling of colors and sizes. Usually we use color for like showing different hierarchies of interactions, for example, like here orange and blue. So orange is the main interaction and blue is a sub interaction, which is a little less important. But never use color alone for providing information. Combine it with icons, symbols, and always with a clear description of what the function is about. So don't write click here on a button, but give the user a pre-assumption of what is going to happen if you click on that button. Go to the download section, for example. It's much clearer than learn more. Yeah, so this helps for accessibility. For colors, you can use contrast checkers. There are a lot of tools on the web. If you search on it, you will find it. And here, this is for the standard of the web content accessibility guidelines, which we saw before. And there is two levels, double and triple A. Triple A is better accessible than double A. You type in the foreground and the background color. For example, here the text for a button and the button color as a background color. And then you get the results if it or which standards are met. If the contrast is too low, it shows you immediately that you have to increase the contrast. One thing to keep in mind is that color is or the color contrast is less important than the light contrast of color. And there is a very easy, let's say, test how you can evaluate if the light contrast of your color is enough. We have heard already about color blindness, like red and green cannot be divided, or violet and brown. Yeah, about 12 up to 15%, depending on the gender, of people in the world suffer from that. So it's also quite a lot. So here in this example, you see the combination of red and green. So for colorblind people who cannot divide red and green, this might be difficult. A very easy trick is you take a screenshot of your design, put it into Photoshop and put it to grayscale. And then you see the light contrast. And you can see that the dark red on the green is no problem. The contrast is strong enough. Problems you can see here in the typing of the dark green on the light green, yeah, like here. Yeah, here the contrast is very low. The grayscale is very close together, but the red one is not a problem. So people who cannot divide the color can divide the light contrast. So you can check it with this very easy check. Keyboard operability, I already talked about it. Can you tap every function? And here on the right, you can see a screenshot from my company's website. If you go through the page with your tab key on your keyboard, it jumps from one part of the menu to another, and you see a highlighting here, a focus. Yeah, when the tab or the tabbing through a page works well, then it's machine readable, pretty much. Yeah, so this is also very light and easy check for accessibility for screen readers, for example, on one hand. And on the other hand, it's also positive for search engines. So your Google ranking will increase when your page is accessible. This is also another good reason to take care of this. Give good orientation and navigation. So the hierarchy of your navigation should be clear. You should give visual feedback, and also this should be accessible by your tab key, yeah, on your keyboard. In addition, you can provide also sitemaps. They show the structure of a digital service in a little bit different way as a list. And that makes it also more accessible. Yeah, it's very good for machine readability. So you might think about this. Add on also other accesses like search functions, for example, so that people can search for a particular topic in your digital service. That helps as well. And as I said, structure your content and your visual design specifications logical and clearly. Yeah, then also machines can read that quite easily, and it's the blueprint for the technical development. When a developer knows, okay, this is the main headline, he will also write this down in HTML, and then a machine can read that. Yeah, and what is a copy text, and what is the appearance of these different kinds of information snippets, let's say. Do you have any questions on that?
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Since every person with a disabilities may experience a different level of severity, how can we conduct usability tests that truly fits and accommodates such different needs?
Very good question. Like the guideline standards, like double or triple A, you have to check technically. There is software outside and services outside which can be used to check these particular guidelines if they are matched and actually accomplished. In a usability test, you have a qualitative impression of how people with disabilities can work with your service. Yeah, you see, or they will tell you, okay, this I can't access, or this I can't read, or this I can't understand. They will tell you. So this is more a qualitative approach, and or the other kinds of like standards, like AA or AAA standards from the WCAG, you use usually technical tools because this is much more efficient in the end. Yeah. And you also can use AI for that. I will not go deeper into that today, but I think you will get an idea.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Excuse me, Ms. Carmen.
Yes. Yes, sure.
About the design, do you have a reference how to make a design with the simulators application? Because my lecturer said like a Figma application, you can use the application for make a sample design for a simulation, your first design or your prototype. So do you have any reference for this application? Thank you.
As far as I know, I'm not a heavy Figma user. I use more XD, but Figma has a lot of plugins you can use. So if you do some research about accessibility plugins for Figma, I'm sure you will find something. Yeah, so you can use that to make sure that you match some of the general accessibility guidelines and requirements. And in terms of when you have a low fidelity prototype, you can also evaluate it, also in terms of disabilities, but you need a little different approach. Let me go therefore maybe to the next chapter, because there is something in it which hopefully might answer the question. Okay, is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's possible. Excuse me, Dr. Carmen.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes, sure.
yeah. First of all, very inspiring talk, Dr. Carmen. Thank you very much for your lectures the afternoon. So I have one question regarding the requirement for the products for people with disability. As you mentioned, that actually there is a kind of guideline that is very detailed, suggested about how should we design the product following the W3C, if I'm not mistaken, guideline. And you mentioned also that the guideline is very detailed, a lot of things there that we need to follow. And as we know that the consequences, if they follow all the detail of the guideline, is the cost of the product development will be rise, will be huge. So, and considering usually, mostly in Indonesia, where people with disability usually they have very limited access, and including in economics status. So how actually we can do some trade-off so we still can develop a product with good accessibility but not that expensive. So yes, what is the considerations to get that trade-off? Yes, thank you.
Also very good. Thank you very much for the question. This is also very important because, as I said, you can't match everything. You can't really reach the absolute best accessibility in the world because nobody will pay for it. So that means that you have to think about with your client, who are your user groups, and what kind of disabilities do we meet there, and how big is the impact. And from that you derive, okay, we need to match at least it needs to be accessible. Then you have to think about, like, as I said, the logical structure of the product in the first place. This matches, let's say, about 60% of all problems. When the code is sober and clean and machine readable, and that you can check with particular software, I can later on, I can send you an example of a tool later on until the end of this week. Yeah, and also can give you an impression. You get reports out of it, and these reports, they tell you what to do to improve general accessibility standards. Yeah. You have to, you really have to talk about this with the service provider, what they have to reach, and then from that you decide, okay, we focus on this and that and those points, otherwise it's not manageable. The WCAG standard, as you said, is very broad and very detailed. And it's even from its accessibility sometimes a little bit difficult because it's so much information, you know. So I honestly admit I do not refer to it very often. Yeah, in the projects I do, we take a look at the brand industry, the requirements that they have, the user groups, and then we decide, okay, this is like the basic standards. We do that in any project. Yeah, this is unquestionable, and that means contrasts, plain HTML, clean code, accessibility via tabs, and different channels you give access to information. If you take this handful of things in account, then you meet, let's say, 3/3 of the most problems. You do a very good improvement. I can promise. Yeah. So don't get nervous about those guidelines and standards. These are very detailed and tiny and not adaptable to everything. Yeah. So thank you for the question.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Yeah, we have talked about a lot of different things, and as designers and UX experts, we often think that, as I said, we know how things should be like, that users use it, but you see those children on the right, they don't use the slide as it was mentioned to be. Sometimes, and you said right now, the resources, financial resources might be a problem also when we face the evaluation of products. Yeah, usability tests are very good. Yeah, you get a lot of qualitative feedback on your design, on your prototypes, on your wireframes. You can test very early the basic things to find out if it works in general. Also, in addition, with eye tracking technology and stuff like that, but it's all very time intensive. So if you take a look at different forms of evaluation, yeah, we have one part where users are included. Yeah, they give us feedback, and we have a part which is conducted by specialists in the field, professionals, or UX experts. And that kind of evaluation is based also on some rules, heuristics, and principles, which also helps to exclude a lot of UX problems and usability problems. And the less usability problems you have, the better is your accessibility of your product in the end. So when we take a look at the upper part of evaluation methods, we have surveys, questionnaires, interviews. They evaluate the user satisfaction, as we have already heard. The classical testings, might it be crowd usability tests remote or in person, discount or guerrilla tests, A/B tests, in addition with eye tracking. They evaluate the effectiveness, efficiency, and give you some qualitative insights into the performance of your product. And there's also something in between that maybe goes back to your question, Fadrian. Yeah, when you have very low fidelity prototypes, like a paper prototype or a very rough wireframe or wire flow, you go back to informal feedback. you cannot really test it on base of a task. This is the principle of a usability test. You give tasks to participants, they execute them at your system, at your prototype, and then you see how it works. If you don't have the functionality in your prototype, you can anyway, but also good, present your drafts and your ideas to representatives of your user groups and talk with them. So it's a little bit a mixture of interview and test session. You also will get feedback, and the earlier you ask for feedback, the earlier you can dismiss problems in your product, and the less it costs. This is also maybe in addition to the question of Ratna, how can I tackle the thing fairly early and often? So get feedback as soon as possible. Yeah, and informal feedback on a low fidelity prototype can help on that as well. We will take a look now on inspections. And I will tell you some of the guidelines of that. These are also very helpful to keep in mind to increase usability and accessibility of your projects. One thing is the so-called interaction principles. Yay, we are again in a DIN ISA norm. Yeah, they are defined in there. They are independent from any kind of technology. You can make an inspection on base of that principles in a pilot cockpit, at a ticket machine, at a web service, at a mobile app, whatever. Doesn't matter which technology. They give you some general guidelines of what you should take into account when you develop a product. The first thing is the suitability for users' tasks. Again, what is the goal of users? What would they like to accomplish? What steps do they have to run through to get to that goal? And does our product support those tasks efficiently, effectively, and satisfactorily? Yeah, one principle. The other next is self-descriptiveness. And we also already have heard about this as well when we talked about a good and logical structure of navigation, for example. Yeah, that you at any time know where you are in the application. Yeah, think, for example, of a very simple thing like a breadcrumb navigation. Yeah, when you know that line of you have a homepage, topic 1, topic 3, and you can jump back to upper levels of your navigation when you went through a product. Sorry, 3 times of talking. Yeah, so, or think of classical funnels, like in an e-commerce. When you go to the checkout of your cart, yeah, you have to put in your address. Then you have to where the thing has to be shipped to. You see what you have bought. You see the price overview, the sum of what you have to pay, and then you go to the payment. And you usually have like step navigations. You see, this is step 1 of the checkout, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. This is also part of self-descriptiveness. You know where you are. Then conformity with user expectations. People know something from their practical experience. Yeah. When things get digitized and they use a digital service, they expect the same procedures, similar terms, similar functionality, and similar steps they have to go through to understand. So when you do good user research, you know the expectation of users, and you should design your application conform to that. Then how can you support people to learn about how things need to be used? Maybe you have an innovation in your product, something which people cannot know. Yeah, give them support and help. Yeah, give them hints, explain what they can do. Yeah, then or like a support and help part can be sometimes in very complex applications, like think of Photoshop. Yeah, you have a community where you can ask and search for particular topics, how you can do something in Photoshop. Yeah, so how can you learn about functionalities? How can you control a service? Yeah, can you customize the interface, the surface of the interface, for example? Can you take shortcuts and so on? User error robustness. Try to type something into Google, and if you have a mistype, it will provide you with a suggestion what you might have searched for. Yeah, so they correct errors by themselves on Google, on the Google search engine. So, or if a mistake happens, how can I deal with that? How can I fix it? Yeah, give people some guidance how to go on in their procedure. And user engagement is about the fun of use. Do I feel a deep dive into the topic? Is the kind of imagery I find, is that very nice and fitting to the topic I'm working on? Get to do some surprise, yeah, like positive feedback when I've achieved something, things like that. Maybe a very good example for that is online gaming. Yeah, there you get rewards for things you have accomplished. Yeah, and that increases your user engagement. You like to use the application. So these are the 7 interaction principles. And there's also another concept called heuristics. There will go a little bit deeper into. And you will see there is some similarity to interaction principles as well. These heuristics are a little bit older than interaction principles, and they are recognized in the UX community, but they are not part of a DIN ISO standard or something. But they are well known and they are very good. They were developed by the guys with the nice haircuts you see down here, Jakob Nielsen. He's an American. He's very famous. You might know the Norman Nielsen Group, maybe. It's a very, very good source for new things going on in usability and experience. They have a very good blog. I can really recommend. And Rolf Mohlich, he's from Denmark. He did a lot of the curricula in the UXQB. As you might remember, I'm also teaching on the international standards of UXQB, and he's one of the editors of these programs. And he's a very, very kind and very, very professional guy. So the 10 heuristics, which were developed by Nielsen and Mohlich in the 90s, you can find also on the webpage of the Nielsen Norman Group as posters. They are very good to check when you do your first drafts and designs. You go just through those heuristics and take a look, okay, is that in my product already? Have I thought about it? Have I considered these aspects? And one is visibility of system status. So that means the system gives you feedback where you are right now, like in the structure of your hierarchy and navigation, for example, or in a funnel, in a step navigation that you see where you are, or that you see, okay, I've got news. Yeah, you know that, for example, from social media platforms, if you get a note from somebody else, you have a little visual feedback that something has changed and you should open your post box. Yeah, provide good community and feedback in the dialogue of user with the interactive system. Match between the system and the real world. That has a lot to do with the use of good and plain language. Good and plain language also is very important for accessibility. Use short sentences. Use terms your user groups know. Make things clear. use bullet points, keep information as short as possible so that people who cannot concentrate for a longer time can also read this and also have access to this. Yeah. And if you have metaphors you can use, this is also very helpful. Think of your desktop on your computer. This is an example of a match between system and real world. The computer desktop was one of the first graphical user interfaces in the beginning of the 1980s. And they used the desktop, the trash bin, the files, yeah, to make people or give people access to the concept of how can I store and file media and data? How can I delete them in the trash bin? Yeah, because you know the trash bin from the real world, and you have a desktop. Yeah, like in the real world when you sit and at your desk in your office. So that helps a lot. Yeah. So never assume that people know the terms you use, yeah, or professionals use. Always think in the problem space. Open your eyes and ears. Listen clearly and closely to what users tell you, and try to make things as easy as possible. User control and freedom. Provide users with the opportunity to redo and undo things. Because they might do something by mistake and they want to fix it. That should be easily done. Give them shortcuts. Yeah, for example, if you order at an e-commerce platform weekly, like kind of, I don't know, your food, yeah, then you don't want to type at any time you make an order your address, the shipping address, and select your payment procedure. Yeah, you like to have a shortcut maybe. Yeah, if the system knows who you are, you just place your order and then you send it, and that's it. Yeah. So especially more experienced users should have the opportunity for shortcuts. And give the opportunity to cancel things, yeah, to interrupt tasks, and to go back to the starting point quite easily. That gives them the feeling of control. Something which is, I think, quite clear if you know about style guides and design systems, then consistency in standards is quite clear. Yeah, a main button should always look the same, independent on which pages it is placed. A headline should always look the same over the whole application. This is consistency within the product, but also in the product portfolio. You should remain consistent. Therefore, we have brand guidelines, for example, and style guides. Yeah, so that users, independent which service they use from a service provider, can orientate very well, can learn very quickly what to do with it, and so on. Or another aspect of this is when you develop a native app, like for Android or iOS, use those platform standards. The user interface elements and controls are slightly different. Yeah, but users being used to Android or users being used to iOS would expect that in the app they find the same or similar controls as they know. So keep that in mind. Prevent errors as good as possible. This is not so easy. A very important thing is also to think about an error concept in your product. This is a lot of times forgotten, and I've seen that a lot of times in practice. Yeah. People always think of the best use cases, but not of the problematic edge cases. But this is also important that you don't forget how to avoid errors. And that means by clear explanation and good user guidance, you can avoid a lot of errors. Yeah, not to put too much information at once on a screen also helps to prevent errors, or warn users if they are about to do something which they might not. Yeah, so always not just think about feedback, but also feed forward. When I click on this, that will happen. Yeah. So this is also very helpful for error prevention. Another principle is recognition and recall. For example, if you like to compare different washing machines yeah, on an e-commerce system, make it easy that people can see what the different features of different machines are like. Yeah, think of visual representation which support that. If you have processes over several steps, give people the opportunity to see what they have chosen in step 1, even when they are at step 5. Yeah, quite easily and quickly. Because you forget things, you get distracted, you get a phone call, your child comes in, a colleague wants something, yeah, so you get interrupted during a process, and if you have to recall that, remember that, that means a lot of mental load, so give support to that as well. Flexibility and efficiency of use, I've already talked about shortcuts, yeah, provide opportunities of personalization if possible. Yeah, that also helps. Also, as we have seen already, an important aspect of accessibility, like contrasts, font sizes. And as I said, a lot of the running systems on computers and smartphones already provide some settings. Check this if your product also works on that. Then it's a great chance to support people in a good way. Aesthetic and minimalist design, just provide and present and represent what's really needed. What's not needed, better avoid it, because it distracts people and costs a lot of mental load. Also, use imagery and fonts which are good to read. Help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. Give them help and support if an error occurs. Explain them in an understandable way, in a plain, clear language, what they can do with the error and how they can fix it. And depending on the product, if it's a very complex, maybe a professional tool, then a help and support area might be helpful. But in general, if filling in a form, if there are data required which is not clear to the users why, explain it directly at the point where the thing occurs. And yeah, try to explain the things in a good manner, not too much, but not too little in your interfaces. Okay, I just check if there are any more questions. Ah, yeah, there's another good question about how to begin the X-Design process specifically tailored for retirees, like for elder people. Yeah, it's a little bit the same. As I mentioned or told you on other questions, talk to the people being elderly. There's also here it's called gerontology, gerontologists. There's a scientific part, studies on the elderly. Check papers on that, or talk to people from that profession. They will probably also give you some first important insights, and then go to your specific user group and find out in your user research what their needs are. That's the best way to start. I hope that answers the question. Whether you do inspection on heuristics or interaction principles, you usually do screenshots and make your comments, what's good, what's well done, what's maybe improvable, yeah, and we do that also for clients. The good thing is that inspections are not that cost intensive as classical usability tests. Do you have any questions so far? Okay, then let us go on because time is running out. Just to make sure, yeah, the difference in between testing methods and inspections is that in testings you get really objective data from your user groups, as they are the participants, and they offer real insights into the performance and usability of an interactive system, but they are more time and cost intensive. While inspections are based on recognized standards, they do not include users, and their quality might depend on the experience of the inspector. So they are not that objective as a classical usability test, but they are less time and cost intensive. The difference, there's a difference in between what people do and what they say. So if you really would like to have real insights, you should do a usability test. That's my experience. Okay, so now we go into the last chapter. I'm sorry, we might need a couple of minutes more. I will keep it simple as far as I can, and hope that's okay for you. I totally apologize. I trained this lecture several times and it went out very well with the time, but now takes a little more. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We enjoy the lecture anyway.
Thank you. My pleasure. So maybe now some interaction. Raise your digital hand if you use AI in your design projects for research, idea development, image generation or something. Who does already use any kind of AI? Do you already use it? Oh yeah, at least some. Okay, great. AI is a very big field. There are more raising hands now. Thank you. Great. Great. So you have already some experience, which is nice. You see, AI, artificial intelligence, combines a lot of different models and different products and different systematics. The one which I probably think almost everybody knows by time is ChatGPT. When it was launched in November 2022, AI came really into everybody's life, more or less. ChatGPT is a generative AI and it's based on a large language model. So it takes, for the most, information being available on the internet and processing this to answer your questions. Yeah. It also gets trained by particular data on also data training farms all over the world in conditions which are not always matching human rights, one has to say. So there's also some dark sides on AI, but this is not the focus of my lecture here. I would like to give you a little overview of what is changing right now in the field of UX. We sometimes also might have contact to deep learning and deep neural networks, depending on the questions we have to tackle. So deep learning is about building technical structures which can work as the human brain for decision making. It's a little bit different compared to large language models, which is for information and data processing for the most. So roughly spoken. in UX, there a lot of changes are currently going on, and in general in product development, and therefore also in design and UX. So at my school, we discuss a lot right now how we need to change the curriculum and what we need to teach to students. And we feel in many ways insecure, I can tell you, because it's not really clear or predictable where the things will go to. However, we cannot avoid AI in the future. This is quite sure, because it's already in the companies, it's already used, and it's already in the processes and in the teams. There are some threats also on design, like the manual tasks we do will go down, like UX writing, doing information architectures. The classical UI design tasks will diminish. They will not disappear, but the job will change on that. Right now, in my professional work for the industries, I do about 40%. I still do UI design. But this won't be the case in another 3 or 5 years, I'm very sure. Prototyping and interaction design will change and will be changed and streamlined by AI tools. And complex tasks will also be accessible and executable by people who are not that experienced in design and UX as we are, who have been trained on that, because the threshold to create an interview with AI is very, very little, small today than it was maybe 5 years ago. And therefore we need a more technical understanding for AI-driven systems in general as designers. And we will probably face also some misuse in the field, yeah, fraud and things going on like that. We already feel there's a lot of crimes happening right now in Europe. When you buy things online, yeah, they try to get more money out of you, so that happens as well. But there are also opportunities. We will have in the future probably more capacities for strategic work. So thinking about the product, with product strategies, being more in the very beginning of the process rather than in the end. So we will have probably more influence as UXers and designers than we have right now. Creativity will not disappear, but it will change and focus more on visual innovation and brand alignment. We will more curate than design. So what the machine delivers us, we have to decide whether it's from good quality or not. And therefore, we still need the skills as designers, but the task will change. And we also need to decide whether the quality we get from any AI outputs is okay, or what we can do with it. And we also, from our profession, are able to gain better outcomes with AI than others. And we will have to bridge more between users, developers, and data scientists. That is what other people from the field are quite clear about. And productivity and development processes will be enhanced, hopefully. I use AI for several tasks in my work, and yeah, it's much quicker in many ways. But there's also but. We will talk about this later. So what does that mean for us? I recommend that you try out different tools, that you look for help and support online and exchange your experience with each other. Yeah, what have you learned? How can you use it? What is the hot shit? You learn a lot by doing. Yeah, you can use it for user research to get into a rough understanding about a particular professional field. You can create interview guidelines. You can get feedback for your AI designs. This all can be done by a machine, yeah, for a very quick check. and you can combine different tools to create a more strategic impact. That means you need to know something about prompting technologies or prompting methods and concepts. When you use that little thumb rule, yeah, you can compare this. You will probably get better results from your AI prompts. Define the motivation. Give the in your prompt some context and background on your inquiry. The machine can better handle it. What exactly should the AI do, and in which tonality? You can also give it a role, a particular role, and let it go or slip into a particular person, let's say. Say something about the result you expect regarding format, length, and style, and maybe give some examples what you are talking about. And in addition, as I said, you can give the AI a particular role or function it should take on. And you can also add on some background information or reference material on the topic you're asking for. I prepared an example. I asked the AI to give me a very rough concept for a landing page, which was addressed to HR managers, to increase the conversion rate that they book something on an e-learning platform, yeah, a training for themselves. The expected result is a description of the page with sections and key elements focused on conversion, because a landing page is always focused on conversion. And I gave an example of the hero sections of a classical landing page, given the pain points HR managers might have, and show me visual elements I should provide to address their demands. And the role, your conversion rate optimizer with years of experience in HR tech and digital learning platforms. So this is the role, let's say the personality the AI takes on. The result is quite amazing. I'm not going into the details, but it says almost everything. Yeah, I haven't the whole answer in here, but it tells me, okay, the hero section above the fold, what should be in there? What should be the headline, the subheadline? What is the CTA, the main button? What is the social proof I give that the user group? And what kind of visual should I use? And though it goes on, yeah, so it lets out the whole structure of the page I asked for in textual form, but you also can add on visual representation. So in the end, it makes a close-up and tells me, okay, what are the pro tips for boosting conversion on a landing page? Yeah, some technical things and some things I should consider in my development. And it also asked me, should I give you a visual representation? And I said, yes, sure, do that. And this is the outcome. So you get a very it's a high level visual representation of a machine. You can take this as a blueprint to say, okay, how should that in the end look like? And this is a matter of 3 minutes. 3 minutes. So there's a lot of opportunities in it to work with that kind of things, yeah. As an idea driver, an innovation driver, that you don't forget anything, it can really speed your work quite up a lot. There's also some rules which you should consider when you work with AI. Take it as a partner. There are studies been done about the friendliness of your prompt. The friendlier you are, and the nicer you formulate your prompt, the better the results. The quality increases. Yeah, there have been made studies on that. That works. Yeah. AI needs good guidance. the clearer your instructions, as you have seen from that example prompt, the better the results. If your instruction is vague, the AI guesses. It does not ask, have you meant this or that? So can be difficult, yeah, that you get not optimum results. AI can also do failures and mistakes, and errors can occur. This is called keyword hallucinations. Yeah, it can be completely wrong. I'm right now in a sabbatical. I work on haptics in interaction design, and I wanted to screen some papers. So I collected papers, and yes, it is. You have 50 pages of very long text. And I thought, okay, I will ask the AI, I will ask ChatGPT to give me a short summary of what's in the paper so that I can decide whether I read it or not. Is it valuable for me or not? And it went completely wrong. Wrong author, wrong paper, even though I put the DOI in it. Yeah, so that can happen. So you need to remain critical. Yeah, it cannot solve your problems. It is a very good companion, but not failure and error free. This is really clearly to be said. Yeah. And not every AI is good for every task and not for every team. So this also needs to be checked in advance before you decide which tool you might take or use. But give it a try. I've brought you some examples, especially from the UX field. I haven't used that by myself. I just have heard from the community that people are not really sure about this. It's synthetic users. It's an AI that sums up data from the internet and creates different user groups that, as far as I've heard, works well for consumer goods. So because you find a lot of information on that on the internet. The results are quite reliable, what you get out of here. And it provides, you feedback on product testing and monitoring. You can train your own user groups and improve them. It gives feedback on UX and UI design, on visual design, and it also offers, or the platform offers, security and risk testing. How qualitative that is, I dare not say, but it's one of the specific things occurring now or appearing now in the UX field. Important to remember is that any UI, AI, whatever you use, not displace or replace the real interaction with real users. You still need that, yeah, because for different reasons. Then for sure, some things in creating imagery is very good already. You can also do promptings on three-dimensional products, and it gives you three-dimensional renderings. A lot of the material is average, I would say, not like really great, but for quick things, or if you need a particular motif on your imagery, it can be very helpful, and it's very quick. And which is also quite great from my experiences, Miro. You can use the Miro AI, and you can it gives you some example prompts. You can just select the ones you need, and for example, gives you a draft for a mind map. So you get a very quick and wide overview about a particular task. Yeah, so that can be very helpful to not forget anything. I throw away usually two-thirds of it because I don't need it. But as a starting point, it's very helpful, and it saves you a lot of time. In general, what we can say, designers will need more technical expertise in the future in terms of AI. One thing, I was at a conference, an international conference last week. It was a remote conference about product development in New York. and they said the work with agents will be the next big thing. If you have a ChatGPT Pro account, with a little bit of HTML and coding competence, you can create agents like the critical thinker, and you can ask those agents to give you feedback on almost everything. Your visual designs, your concepts, your content, texts you have written, and things like that. Or you can also define other roles, yeah, of particular user groups, which can give you feedback on your stuff. So as a conclusion, I would recommend use it, try things out, keep your eyes and ears open what's going on there right now, but stay critical, really stay critical. Which database is used on which AI model is not transparent. You don't know where those data come from and how reliable they are. Also, has some impact on the quality. One very important thing, I think, is certain groups for which are not, or just little data is available, are marginalized. So they don't show up there. So if you have user groups from Africa, they might not appear in your AI model. Yeah, so be careful and don't trust everything. AIs we use in the field of UX are usually based on language models, but not everything in the world can be expressed in language. There's so many things in between: emotions, human expectations, empathy. So no AI will ever replace the contact and the exchange in between us and our users. AI does not and will not replace creativity, but it will accelerate and support it. So you should get used to it. You should build up some expertise in the field so that you know how to deal with those things when you go into the in your jobs. And also, AI can be wrong. Not everything we get is from good quality. Also remember keep in mind aspects of sustainability. An AI request needs 10 times more energy than a usual Google inquiry. So really think about when you need it or when it makes sense, because it costs a lot of energy. It, as I mentioned several times, does not replace real users, and also take care of legal aspects like copyright and so on. Yeah, this can also be critical. So try it, use it, but stay critical and be careful with it. And that's it for so far. Thank you. And we can go into the Q&A.
All right, everyone. Please, any question for this Q&A session?
I see one a comment in the chat. We must verify anything I said, not just trust. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yes, there is someone raised hand. Rais, are you here?
Hello, Bu. So
Okay.
I'm going to ask about the accessibility that before. Wait,
Oh, your sound quality is a little difficult. I don't know.
hello,
Yes, now I can hear you.
is it clear?
Yeah, it's better. It's a little better.
Okay. So as for the context, I'm an industrial design student, and I'm going to ask about accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned before. So direct connections between the designer and the users are essential, right?
Yeah.
So what if the user itself are difficult to it's difficult to get there, like directly connect to them, talk to them. Maybe like I'm taking a case with a remote island civilization, whatever, like sort of stuff.
Yeah, I
what
see.
if- yeah.
Yeah. How you could get access to a particular user groups.
So
There's
how
different. Yeah.
So maybe how is the way how you know their experience for our products, or maybe divine the real solutions, or
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Very good one. You might have different opportunities to get in touch with people which might be difficult to get in touch with. Sometimes you have like professional association. So I guess that also in Indonesia, there will be associations from blind people, for example, or from people being in wheelchairs, because they do usually some lobby work, yeah, for themselves, for their interests. Or you find groups which support where people support each other. So you can start with the desk research to find those groups and contact them and tell them what you are about and what your project is about, and ask for their help. Some things you can clarify in interviews you can do remotely. Yeah. So this doesn't take much time. You don't have to travel. And you at least get a very basic and general idea about your user group. That's, for example, one thing you can do. And as I said, access over professional groups, particular groups. You find them on social media. You find them on professional platforms like LinkedIn or something. This is also a very good access point to get in contact with them. Does that answer your question?
So is it wrong if we only rely on data? I mean, like in the other case.
It's not wrong. I can tell you also in the industry, it happens that you have to just rely on data because nobody pays for a proper user research. But, and there is a lot of good data you can use. But from my experience, to really get the real contact is a little bit different. It's different. You build up a different kind of empathy, a different understanding. You see things people cannot explain. There's also difference when we think of user research. Yeah, as I mentioned, things like doing interviews and questionnaires and surveys. There you ask people something they can explicitly answer. You ask a question and they can give an answer. But there are things in the world people cannot explicitly say by language because they are not, they don't really there's something they cannot say because they don't know anymore. When you do something every day, again and again, you're so deeply in it, you don't question things. But when you go into the context and observe people, then you might think, why do they do that way? And when you ask them, they can't answer. It's the same when I ask you, how do you ride a bike? You can't explain. What do you do physically by riding a bike, holding the balance? You cannot tell. So that's why sometimes going into the field and observe people is much more fruitful because you see something in between you cannot represent on data and language. There's something more.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I think there's another chat.
Is there any question. It seems
Yes.
there is no one person again.
No, I thought no. There's
Okay, so
not.
can we is it enough for the question?
I think just maybe one last thing. I want again to thank you very, very much for all the careful preparation and organization. I want to thank everybody who has supported this making happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You were awesome and very, very careful, attentive, and just great, so friendly. This was really a very good experience. And to the audience, thank you very much for your attention and interest. I hope I could bring something to you. And I wish you all the best for your projects and for your professional future. And if you like to, you can leave me a thumb up or down, however you like the session. And have a great evening and take care. Stay healthy. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure, Professor Carmen. Thank you very, very, very much, Professor Carmen, for the insightful lecture today. Today's lecture has broadened our understanding on how user experience design can serve as a powerful tool for empowerment in detailed steps, very detailed, and processes, including for people with disabilities who are often overlooked in mainstream design process. Furthermore, the use of AI to improve product development. We deeply appreciate your generosity in sharing not only your expertise, but also your passion for inclusive and human-centered design. Your presentation reminds us that good design is not only about aesthetic and functional, but about creating dignity, access, and agency for all users. Before we close today's session, on behalf of the CREBIS faculty and team, please accept our profound gratitude to Professor Carmen for the inspiring lecture and meaningful discussion. As a token of appreciation, we would now like to present a certificate of appreciation to Professor Carmen. Thank you once again, and we hope to continue this collaboration in future.
I hope so too. Thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure. Okay, as to all participants, student, lecturer, and professional, thank you for your active engagement and thoughtful question. Please don't forget to fill the attendance form and complete the feedback survey. You will receive an e-certificate that can be claimed as CAM credit. Let's continue to explore, reflect, and practice empathy through the work we do as designer, technologists, and innovators. Okay, once again, thank you everyone for being part of this meaningful session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.